First of all, whenever I have people come to ISI Florence, come to our consortium of state universities from Australia, Japan, and the US, either here or at the other facility that we have, I always thank them and I always ask them, what can we do for you? And I think you in particular, David and Shandy, of all of you, have done a lot for all of us and for each other. I think it has been a very useful, stimulating, and also a very convivial series of events, of meetings. And this leads me to a sort of quotation. I don't remember it by heart, but in any case, a passage from Giovanni Rucellai's commonplace book, his Zibaldone, his diary that he kept for some 30 years. The original copy is upstairs on the second floor where the Rucellais live. And there is a passage in that book that is really a mixed bag. I mean, there are all sorts of things, and also just reminders for himself. Remember, to have your shoes, my shoes fixed, to go to the shoemaker or something like that, buy bread or whatever, pay that debt, get some money back. In any case, there is a passage where he says, I'm particularly proud of having built this palace because I wanted to become a venue, a meeting place for humanists, he says. And I think we're being true to the spirit, right, of this passage, to this dream that Giovanni Rucellai had. And I don't want to brag, of course. I also believe that humility is the mother of all virtues. But we are, or we try to be today's humanists, right? In this sense, they were trying to promote also a humane education. We talked a lot about, sensitivity these days, about kindness. And those are not details, those are not appendixes. I believe that is really the essence of, as teachers, as educators, what we should do. It's our mission. Then, another thing is I'm particularly glad to be here and to spend time here with you because I try not to take anything for granted. And what we have been doing these days, if I may quote from a good American novelist, we could call, it's a sort of contradiction in terms, the precious ordinary, right? But during COVID, we realized how precious, and we thought it was ordinary, was meeting people, going out and have lunch, right? Shaking hands, eating together. That's very precious. That's really what makes us human. And this idea of conviviality is something, as you reminded us also yesterday when we went to that villa, that the humanists were all in favor of. And so I think it would be important to keep this spirit alive. And the other thing is, again, it's what we've been doing these days, trying to build something together. Right? I have the impression, and I don't want to come across now as romantic or preaching, but people tend to isolate and self-isolate. That may also be a consequence of COVID a lot these days, right? And it always strikes me when people say, well, it would be great to come to Palazzo Rucellai or to Villa Itati or any other villa, but is it possible to follow it remotely? And those are people who live in Florence and who may be only, a 10-minute walk from that place. I think that's a pity. I'm not saying that it's a threat to civilization, but I sense something that may have some negative consequences, and I see that especially with students. A lot of students were traumatized by COVID. Some of them now have have not only a different attitude, but also a hard time getting back to what we would call normality or normalcy. They are more introverted, they are more afraid than before, and I think that we have an important task also in that respect as teachers, as educators, sharing these values that we have mentioned these days. And again, as the humanist said, it's a work in progress. And I think it's beautiful that it's a work in progress, something that is not finished, right? As Manetti said, it's a beautiful world, but we have to try to make it even more beautiful. And so that is the last thing I want to say. I'm glad, because I'm also in favor of technology, that you recorded what you did, so that we're going to have something that will stay for a while, right? That we can pass down to future generations or to anyone who wants to listen to what we have been saying these days. And I hope that there will be iterations, right, to improve on what we did today, this past week. I hope this is not a one-off event, but it's the beginning of something that we can pull off and build together. So again, thank you very much. And especially thank you, David, because you have been the mastermind, right? The pantographer. Shandy and I and everyone with our questions, right, try to, of course, improve on what you were thinking of doing, but you did a great job, and this is actually something that you have done 99% really of the whole thing.